The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
In every other song that I've heard lately, somebody gets shot, and his baby and his best friend both die with him, as likely as not. In half of the other songs, some cats crying are ready to die. We've lost most all of our happy people, and I'm a-wondering why. Let's think about living.
Let's think about living.
Let's think about loving.
Let's think about loving.
Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the bopping and the lovey-dovey-dovey. Let's forget about the whining and the crying and the shooting and the dying and the fellow with a switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
Well, we lost old Marty Robbins out in El Paso one sad day. Then a blonde-haired woman crossed the red-headed stranger, and boy, did he make her pay. And old George Jones stopped loving her when they hauled him away. If we keep on losing our singers like that, we'll be the only ones left to say,
Let's think about living.
Let's think about living.
Let's think about loving.
Let's think about loving.
Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the bopping and the lovey-dovey-dovey. Let's forget about the whining and the crying and the shooting and the dying and the fellow with a switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life. Let's think about living.
Let's think about living.
Let's think about loving.
Let's think about loving.
Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the bopping and the lovey-dovey-dovey. Let's forget about the whining and the crying and the shooting and the dying and the fellow with a switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life. Let's think about living.
Let's think about living.
Let's think about loving.
Let's think about loving.
Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the bopping and the lovey-dovey-dovey. Let's forget about the whining and the crying and the shooting and the dying and the fellow with a switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life. Let's think about living.
Let's think about living.
Let's think about life.
Son's been on some invention stuff. He's been working a little hard. He's got him some part-time jobs in case this fell through. He was selling no soliciting signs door to door. And yeah. Oh, it went great there for a while, but then he couldn't go back. Then he got to selling hearing aids door to door. Hearing aids door to door. You're right. The people who really needed them didn't even know he was there. You know what I mean? Hey. But anyway, son got it. His latest venture is used tombstones, and that's going nowhere. I'll tell you for sure. Seemed like a good idea at first to use tombstones. In fact, he's got a bargain on one tonight if anybody happens to be named Bartholomew B. Throckmorton and was born May 5th, 1934, but nobody, I don't believe that'll be going. So we're riding over in a Rolls-Royce limousine. Old Al Adams is driving, you know. He's bringing us over here at the studio. We pull up to a red light. Lo and behold, there's another Rolls-Royce sitting right next to us. Son rolls down his power window. He reaches over, taps on the window next door. The window comes down, and son says, "Pardon me, do you have any ketchup?"
Let's Think About Living. That was the Giesenslaw brothers from their album Help, I'm White and I Can't Get Down. And let's see, we've got some movie reviews coming up here. We're going to do Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 3. I'm not sure if this is the one with Mickey Rooney or not. Mickey Rooney plays a demented toy maker in one of them. I'm not sure which one. It was beyond Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. And probably somewhere no later than Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 114. or however many they got in there. After that, another holiday one, Bloody New Year, and then we'll finish it out with Night of the Creeps. So here then is Silent Night, Deadly Night, Part 3. Enjoy. Talk to you later. Adios.
Are you guys watching those god-awful movies again?
Oh,
No,
no.
Dean, We're watching It's a Wonderful
Yeah,
Life.
that's right, with Jimmy Stewart.
And Donna Reed. It's
It's
our
our
favorite.
favorite.
Well, good, because I am just so much in the Christmas spirit. We've got the tree, and the room smells of pine, and we have the stockings hung, and I just love this baking of cookies in the kitchen, and I love the colors and the scents. And you know, while I'm putting this last ornament on the tree, I thought it would be kind of nice if you guys sang Silent Night with me.
Do we have to?
Yeah, we're not. Well, all right.
All right.
We'll see. You
All
ready,
right.
Jim?
Yeah.
All right.
Silent night, deadly night.
What?
Oh.
What? Guys,
What?
guys,
What?
what did you say?
We said
Silent night, holy night.
No, that's not what I heard the first
Yeah,
time.
that's what we
Yeah,
said,
that's what we
wasn't it?
said,
Yeah.
huh? Yeah.
Well,
We did.
You must have
It's-
misunderstood us. You know, too much Christmas.
well, it's too late now. I got the last ornament up and I'm going up to bed. But all I've got to say, guys, is if you're not telling me the truth and you're not watching It's a Wonderful Life, Santa's going to leave coal in your stocking. Good night.
Oh, good night.
Jim, we must be psychic.
Oh, I guess we are.
You know what? You know why it slipped out?
No,
Like
why?
that? You know, we did say that, Jim.
Well, did we?
Yeah, we
oh, I
said
didn't
Silent
think we
Night,
did.
Deadly Night. Because the movie we got. Wait, she's gone. Yeah, she is.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
It's Silent Night, Deadly Night.
But we already saw Silent Night, Deadly Night. We saw it twice.
Well,
as a
wait,
matter of fact.
no. We saw the first one. See, we saw Silent Night, Deadly Night. I mean, that was just part one, you know? That's where this guy in the Santa Claus outfit killed this kid's family.
Yeah.
And then he became a psycho.
Yeah.
And he'd dress up in the Santa Claus
Yeah.
suit. And he'd run around.
Oh,
and-
yeah, I remember that one. Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
that's,
watched it 2 years ago.
Yeah. And then last year, we saw the other one you're thinking about. It's part two.
Yeah.
Where it continues the adventure. Where this kid who's the psycho, gets
Now
gets
he's
killed.
all grown up.
Well, yeah, but he gets killed by the police, see?
Oh, that's right.
But he has this little brother. And the
Yeah.
little brother starts dressing up in a Santa Claus suit, and he runs
Oh,
around.
I remember that. Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
okay.
At the end,
That's
then he
it.
gets killed.
That's right. And so now in part 3, they got some kind of weird brainwave experiment, see?
Yeah.
Except there's this girl who is blind. I don't know how she gets involved in this, but she's blind, but she has extrasensory perception.
Yeah.
And she somehow locks into this mind of this psycho guy.
Uh-huh.
This is like somehow related to the guy who killed somebody in the last 2 ones.
Yeah.
And now he's wearing this goofy-looking glass cylinder on his head with brains sticking out of it and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's really nuts.
Yeah.
And he spends all of his time in a Santa Claus suit.
Yeah.
And he runs around.
And he kills everybody. Oh,
Yeah, it's
that
great.
sounds like the
Okay.
best one.
Let's put it in.
I want a Barbie doll. And a bicycle. And roller skates. And ballet shoes. And a Mickey Mouse watch. And a doll.
Well, ho, 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 and Merry Christmas to us, Jim, from EMI Video, who's given us a beautiful little gem of a Christmas present this year in this week's movie, Silent Night, Deadly Night, Part 3. You better watch out. That's the subtitle. And, Jim, you better watch out for this movie, because this is really one of the finest seasonal films to come down the pike in a long time. I'm really happy we got this one. You look disgusted, but I was really happy, and I loved every minute of this fine film.
Silver, you got to be demented. I mean, they've gotten worse and worse as they've gone on. Now, okay, they've got a lot of money now, and the film looks good. You know, it's slick, it's a good production, and the actors are pretty good, you know. But, Jay, I mean, this guy is laying there with this bubble on his head. They've actually cut this is what you're supposed to believe, right? They've cut the top of his cranium off, taken off his skull bone and his hair and everything, and then put this band and screwed it into the rest of his skull, and it's got like this bubble over the top. Sort of looks like the Pope Dome, you know, or that he rides around, the Pope Mobile, but it's got a brain in it. It's got all this fluid that kind of just sloshes around inside of it. It's terrible. I mean, it's just...
Okay, wait a minute, Jim. No, listen, it wasn't very pleasant, was it?
No.
Okay. And what the producers and directors and the people who made this movie are trying to tell us, Jim, is that our minds have been clouded and really distorted. I mean, our views toward Christmas, our views toward the holidays, the commercialism and so on, has clouded our minds so much. When you strip away that covering, you pull off the cranium of what it's done to our minds, and you can look in there and see how disgusting things are really inside in our view toward Christmas, Jim. And if anything, the makers of this movie have done us a great service in just stripping away the veneer to show us exactly. Jim, what are you making? What are you doing? What are you making those noises for?
Because I was stripping away the layers of my mind.
It looked like you were throwing up.
Well, maybe that's what's left under there, Jay. I don't know.
Well, that's all they were trying to show us, Jim. Crass commercialism, and this is one way it's rampant in the holiday season. And they were trying to bring back to us some kernel of beauty and charm from the season.
See, what they were trying to do was wrestle some sort of a movie that would last about 80 minutes out of a complete mess that nobody understands. I mean, what a premise. There's this woman who's blind. She's got some psychic abilities of some sort, and they've got this guy with a bubble brain sitting in the other room, and they've got him hooked up to it, and she's hooked up to him with all these little diodes and things stuck to her head. And suddenly she starts dreaming about Santa Claus is stabbing people and this little kid and all her parents getting killed and all this stuff. It's just terrible, Jay. And
she's acting. Wait a minute. Now she's acting from. I mean, she's not acting. She's motivated by purity. She's blind to the commercialism. She's blind to what our society has done to Christmas. And so she's really the heroine in this thing. Everybody else who's not blind to it, she symbolizes those people who've maintained their purity by keeping blind to the crassness and the banality of that Christmas has become.
Sure, that's why at the beginning she says, "I want a Barbie doll and skates," and all this stuff that is just so, regular about Christmas. She's like every other kid. She wants all the stuff that every other kid ever wanted.
But that was a dream, Jim. Or rather, that was actually her nightmare. It was the antithesis of everything that she really believed about it. It was just like when you have a nightmare and you think of things that aren't really the worst things that can happen to you come true in these nightmares. That was the same way with this woman, Jim. The nightmare was formed from her deepest fears about her falling victim to the commercialism of Christmas. And in fact, I mean, you saw that same scene. Santa Claus, who was still exuding a kind of charm for her in her childlike state, pulled a Bowie knife on her and tried to stab her. That was all part of the nightmare and really didn't represent her true feelings at all. And you missed that entirely.
I guess I did, Jay. You got me there. I did. I missed it entirely. But what I didn't miss was this next scene coming up. And I guess at least they were able to make a little fun of themselves and kind of get a little laugh out of the whole thing of the guy with the bubble brain and sitting there. He's been in a coma for 6 years, okay? And we'll get into that later. But there's a scene coming up that you just have to hear. I don't even have to set it up. Well, yeah, I do. A guy dressed in a Santa Claus outfit comes into the Bubble Brain's room. And
Jim, can we try to keep maybe within a little bit of the charity of the season and not refer to this poor guy as the Bubble Brain anymore?
It is the Bubble Brain.
He's had some cranial damage,
some
and
problems.
He's in repair, okay? He's
fine.
in a state of repair.
Fine,
Let's
okay.
not call him the Bubble Brain anymore, all right?
All right. Anyway, this guy dressed in a Santa suit, who's a little drunk, comes in, and he's going to take a nip, and he comes in and he's talking to this guy. This is great.
Yeah, what have we got here? Coma victim. Hey, Ricky. Want a drink? What's that? Vegetables don't drink? Great, pal. More for me. Cheers. Cheers. Hey, vegetable. Who's your favorite singer? Perry Como? Fly me to the moon. And let me play a movie with Ricky. Oh, oh, oh. Easy, boy, you're not well. Hey, Ricky, you know about the broccoli, I was just kidding. Seriously. Want a drink? No. No! No!
Well, Well, Jay, I must admit that I really liked that part. I just thought it was great, calling him a vegetable. Then he comes up and starts beating him up, and he starts and killing him, and he starts apologizing.
See, there's a concordance here, Jim. What they were really trying to show us is that the average person who's been brain dead can rise up against the commercialism of Christmas and actually be meaningful, just like he did.
Well, yeah, well, okay. Well, yeah, but then the whole thing falls apart, Jay. He leaves the hospital. He's still got his gown on, and he's got the bubble on his head, and he's out on the freeway, Jay, in broad daylight, hitchhiking. I mean,
somebody picked him up.
Somebody picks him up. I mean, it's incredible.
You got to remember, it's filmed in California.
I guess you're right.
We were in the Atomic Cafe one night, and a guy came in with a skateboard asking directions for Bakersfield. He was trying to skateboard to Bakersfield. I think somebody picked him up because I don't know how else he would have gotten there.
I know.
Probably they picked him up and took him to Camarillo State. But
Probably
anyway,
did.
that's beside the point.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the one nice thing I liked about the movie, Jay, was in the credits it said, as themselves was the Wiener family, and that sort of summed the whole thing up for me. I liked it, and for that reason, I'm going to give it 1 lobotomy just for the Wiener.
Well, 3.5 lobotomies for me, Jim. I think, as usual, you missed the point of this movie. I really liked the indictment of commercialism of Christmas, and I also liked the great scene where they cut the guy's head off and put it in front of the telephone when his girlfriend was talking dirty to him. That was a great scene, too. Made the movie worth watching. I hope that you can watch the movie 1 or 2 more times and learn something from it.
Hey, Jim, turn that off. You don't worry about it tonight. She's over at her mother. She got stuck in a snowstorm over there, and she's not going to get home at all. She's staying over there, so we don't have to put up with this what's her life stuff or anything.
We don't?
We're off the hook.
You mean
we
we
can
don't?
watch anything we want. Don't worry about it. Just turn it off.
Okay. Oh, that's
this is
great.
great.
You mean she's stuck over there
Yeah,
at her
she's-
mother's, and she's not going to be back?
No,
She's not going to come down the steps?
She's not going to be screaming at us. We're off the hook. We can watch, I don't care, we can watch maimings, we can watch killings, stabbings, heads cut off, arms flying,
Arms
we can do
flying?
anything we want.
Oh,
And
that's-
she's not going to
oh.
bother us a bit.
This is going to be
That's
great, Jay. But,
Oh, well,
What's
get the
it-
phone.
well,
I'll get it, I
why
guess.
don't you get it?
Hello?
Are you guys watching those god-awful movies again?
Oh, Jay, put that back. Put it. No, dear, we're watching. No, Gene, we're watching It's a Wonderful Life.
With Jimmy Stewart. And Donna Reed. It's our favorite.
Well, I'm stuck here at my mother's, and I probably will be here till New Year's Day, and I better not hear you guys watching those stupid movies again.
No.
We're just gonna stay here. It's snowy tonight. We're gonna cuddle up with a nice
blanket,
little Jimmy and Donna. And
hot
puppy.
toddies.
It'll be nice. We'll make some popcorn. Don't worry about us.
Good night. Boy, Jay, I'll tell you, she must be psychic or something. I'll tell you, turn that off. Will you? I can't stand it anymore. Turn off It's a Wonderful Life. Ooh, thanks.
I'll tell you, Jim.
Now look, what do we got tonight?
Well, Jim, we got this movie called Bloody New Year.
Oh,
It's real
great.
weird 'cause
That's
it's really not
that's-
about the New Year, but it's about these people
Huh?
that go to this island.
Yeah?
Well, actually, what happens is that they run around a carnival and they get some carnival workers chasing them, and they steal
Yeah?
the boat and they go to an island, but the boat crashes. And
Yeah?
they end up getting shipwrecked on the island.
Yeah?
And they go to this big hotel on the island, and they run into some old guys who were like members of a B-29 crew that crashed on the island.
Wait a
did some weird
minute.
experiment and all this kind of stuff.
That
but-
sounds weird.
Yeah, well, it is weird, Jim, but there's one thing about the movie that's really neat and that isn't weird at all.
Yeah, Jay, what's that?
Well, Jim, you know.
Oh, you mean...
Yeah, they are everybody!
Oh, that's great, Jay. Let's put it in now.
I can't wait for New Year's for this one, Jim.
There was an experiment that went terribly wrong. The government, in their wisdom, sent up a plane on New Year's Eve. A plane carrying a device that could change the structure of time and matter. This device could shatter time itself. And the pilot crashed the plane. Here on Grand Island among us in time forever. Dead or alive, we are all caught in this awful, angry half-world, and we can't escape. Ever.
Oh boy, it seemed forever like that movie was going on, Jim. Forever and ever and ever and ever. And it finally ended. And when it ended, I looked back and I saw probably the worst movie I've ever seen in my entire life. This 1986 release from Vestron, or one of those video companies, called Bloody New Year's. And actually, Jim, this movie was made in England. It was called Bloody New Year, but it had nothing to do with the New Year. It started off with some reference to a New Year's party, and later on it said something about a plane crashing on New Year's. But there was nothing New Year's-y about it. There were no New Year's Eve parties. No one sang Auld Lang Syne. There were no party hats. Nobody blew any whistles, popped any champagne. It was nothing. In fact, it was filmed in England, as I said. And a lot of it took place on the beach. And people were wearing two-pieces and so on. There's no way that you're going to be wearing two-piece bathing suits and sitting out in the sun in England on New Year's. I can't figure out where they got the title from. I think they just made the movie and then stuck the title on at the very end because they had nothing better to do. And I can tell by the look on your face that you like this movie. And I can't believe it because despite the fact that it was comically inept, it seemed like an hour and 40 minutes of pure drudgery for me, Jim.
Well, I'll tell you, Jay. I have to agree with you, and I was feeling the same way until about halfway through the movie, when I understood what was going on here. Now, but I first want to tell you that, Jay, I've made a New Year's resolution, and I want to let you know this before I start because it has a bearing on what I'm going to tell you. And my New Year's resolution is that you've given me so much trouble over the last year about how I'm so shallow and I don't look below the surface of the movie, that my resolution this year is that starting with this movie today, I'm going to start looking below the surface of a movie and trying to get more meaning out of these things. So, based on that, Jay, I was looking at this movie. I was right with you. I thought it was horrible, that there was nothing connecting this whole thing. It just was, you're right, disjointed. It seemed disjointed on the surface. And normally, that's where I would have been. I would have been doing the same thing that you did. But I know now that this movie is much, much deeper than that. In fact, I'm even going to go so far to say as this movie parallels, not exactly, but almost exactly, one of my favorite books, Alice in Wonderland, written by Leo G. Carroll. And I'm telling you,
wait a minute, Jim. It was written by Lewis Carroll, Jim. Leo G. Carroll's the guy that played Topper in the movies.
Oh, that's right. Well, anyway, look, that's beside the point. This movie was just exquisite. I mean, this thing was crafted with such precision that, I mean, it was amazing. What really got me going the first time was they're walking through. Okay, what's happened here basically is that these people end up on this island. Okay, they had a little boat trip after they had that trouble in the carnival. You mentioned that. They end up on this island. Their boat has crashed. They end up on this island, and there's this hotel there. Okay, and at the beginning of the movie, there was these black and white pictures of a New Year's Eve party of 1959. Okay, now that's when this plane crashes. Okay, and we find that out later in the movie. This woman says that there was this experiment that went wrong. This plane crashes, and what they were doing, Jay, is they were trying to figure out a way to make planes invisible to radar. Okay, and what they did was they covered the plane with mirrors. Okay, and when the plane crashed, all the mirrors got broken, of course, and toward the middle of the movie, they ran out into the forest and they came to this forest of mirrors. They were all hanging on the trees, and it was like walking through the garden of cards and of the roses, but it was a forest of mirrors, Jay. And that's when it hit me. That's when it hit me. The whole thing that came together of Carol Baker's book, and I'm telling you, it just struck.
Wait a minute, Jim. It's not Carol Baker.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
Lewis Carroll.
No. All right,
Carol
look,
Baker played in Baby Doll.
Look, what it is, Jay, is that England, it's a political satire. This whole movie was a political satire, and the mirrors represented England's sort of a voyeuristic view of themselves. They see themselves back as this great power that they once were, and all the mirrors represent, their view of themselves. But of course, the rest of the world views them as basically a second-rate power.
Wait a minute. Well, what book are you basing this on?
Alice in Wonderland, Jay. The greatest political satire ever written about England. And of course, Jerry Lewis wouldn't have said it any other way, if he'd have written the book today.
Jim, Lewis Carroll, Jim, not Jerry Lewis. Jerry Lewis runs the telethon, okay?
I'm sorry, I get confused. But, okay, so what's happening now? The New Year's thing, okay, the party. This is the party. This is the reigning party in England, okay? And it's obviously not working because all these people are dead. And the dead people in this movie represent all the countries that England used to have power over. India, Vietnam. The only thing they have left is the Falklands, and that's the island that they're on. This is the Falkland Island.
Are they in Vietnam, Jim?
Yeah, they used to own Vietnam. I mean, it was a protectorate. It was French Indochina, you know, when England ruled French Indochina. Okay? And of course, now, no look. And I know that Carol Chessman meant it this way because he wrote it that way in Alice in Wonderland. What?
Carol Chessman was the Lover's Lane killer, Jim. He killed about 12 people. He went to the electric chair. And wait a minute, who taught you? Where did you get your history lessons? Never mind, go ahead.
Okay, well, anyway. Don't worry. We'll soon be back. Well, look, no, this is true, Jay. No, look, you're turning to me. Look, this thing has so many parallels of Alice in Wonderland. It's just amazing. All right, the Queen of Hearts, for instance. There's the Queen of Hearts. It's their friend. Okay, she turns into like this ogre. Okay, and she's running around, and she has like her face is half beautiful and half kind of boiled up. Okay, and that's sort of the two faces of England. Okay, England on the one hand is this wonderful benevolent country.
Maybe half-baked might have been a better idea, Jim.
Look, Jay, if you're going to make fun of Sinclair Lewis's book, then you should at least know what you're talking about.
Jim, he wrote Main Street, Jim. It's just Lewis Carroll, Jim.
I'm sorry. Okay, well, anyway, Jay, all of these things, all of these monsters and things that keep coming out and chasing them and grabbing them, this is the Enchanted Forest, okay? This parallels the Enchanted Forest in Alice in Wonderland. And, of course, all of these horrible things are all the things that have happened to England throughout the years, you know, that have made her weak, that have caused her not to be the superpower that she once was. And of course, Robert Louis Stevenson knew this when he wrote Alice in Wonderland, but of course it was a much older England.
Jim,
What?
Treasure Island, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and other things. Not Alice in Wonderland. Lewis Carroll, Jim.
All right. Well, he'd have written it if he could. And of course, the old house, it's an English kind of looking house, of course, and this symbolizes, you know, the old England, and it's the Grand Island Hotel. And of course, now the New Year's party is just integral into this whole movie. The New Year's party is England's. They're trying to come out. They're trying to become a great power again. And this party is sort of, you know, this is like their coming out party. Okay, and I'll tell you, Jay, I couldn't have said it any better than Carol Bayer Sager did when she wrote the book.
Jim, hold on. Whoa. Married to Burt Bacharach, Jim. Lewis Carroll. Lewis Carroll.
Well, okay. Anyway, the great Carl Sagan said in the book, in Alice in Wonderland,
and that's
that
a possibility.
they're trying to.
I agree.
You think that might
he
be?
might very well have been the author.
But they're trying to come out. They're trying to have a new party. They're trying to make it a New Year. They're trying to start over again, become a great power again. You know, they're having this New Year's Eve party, and I think this is it. And of course, the two people that almost escape in the movie, but just at the last minute, they're called back. They get dragged in and they get killed. This is England trying to come out again. They make great strides, but they fall back again. They're trying and trying and trying. And Jay, it's just wonderful. This is a wonderful movie. If people can get this movie and really look deep into it, like I've really resolved to do this new year, and I know you're going to love this, that they are going to love this movie. Now, there's not a lot of scenes we can show you because it's so strange that, you know, there's really not much that would make sense that we could actually explain because it's just too deep.
Jim, I think that's really a tough act to follow. There's very little that I can say about that. But let me just say, from my point of view, I didn't have the perspective that you had, let's say, in this movie. To me, it just seemed like a disjointed piece of garbage. It seemed like something that they threw scenes together. It seemed to me, now realizing that I didn't look as deeply as you did, it seemed like scenes that were shot and edited improperly, pieced together wrong, out of time and sequence. It seemed like bad acting, but I just didn't catch the quality of the acting that you saw in it. I didn't see the subtleties of the actors and how they were playing the different characters in Alice in Wonderland. And I missed that. I have to admit.
This is deliberate, though, Jay. That was all deliberately done. It's all deliberately done.
Jim, I admit it. I really overlooked a lot in this movie, apparently, because, I don't know, nothing seemed... Actually, the movie, in one sense, I thought was worth watching for anybody just because it was so hysterically inept. It may very well have been one of the most ineptly made movies I've ever seen in my entire life. I really mean that. I've seen a lot of bad movies, and this may be the one to watch if you're looking for a badly done movie. But I don't really know what else to say about it. Obviously, I just wasn't looking as deeply as you were, and I didn't understand. I was too dense to get the kind of meaning that you managed to get out of it, Jim. But I'll tell you one thing. I did see there was one bit of this that seemed very pertinent, and that's when I was looking over the credits, Jim. the producer of this thing this is serious, the producer of this thing was a guy named Quentin Anus. And I swear, Quentin Anus, and never could anything have been more appropriate, because for me, Jim, this movie was very simply a piece of...
Whoa, wait a minute. Whoa. You can't say this. Come on.
I didn't say anything.
You're come on, you're down to my level when last year. My scatological humor. I see the problems that I had. Oh, listen now. We're coming back to Poopy Avanti again. Boy, Jay, I'll tell you this could be the Jekyll and Hyde story of the century here. I tell you, I wonder about you. I really do. I can't believe you don't see this. I have many other things. If you'd like me to go into them, I can show you exactly what.
Please do, but let's not subject our listeners to it.
Okay.
Let's do it on the side.
Well, all right. I'll just go into. I'm going to give this movie a four lobotomies, Jay. I love this movie. This was great. I mean, obviously, different level than Basket Case or some of the other 5 lobotomies that we've had, but solid 4 lobotomies for Bloody New Year.
A very, very generous 2 lobotomies due to its hysterical ineptitude, Jim. That's it.
Okay, well, we'll see you next week. Thanks to Metro Video at 4491 Forest Park Boulevard.
Serving the Central West End, by the way.
Are you guys watching those god-awful movies again?
Thrill me.
What? What do you mean, thrill me? Are you guys watching those god-awful movies again?
Thrill me.
What? Thrill you? I am going to kill you now. What are you watching?
Yeah, we're watching It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, with Jimmy Stewart.
And Donna Reed.
Yeah,
it's our favorite.
Well, what's all this thrill me stuff?
Thrill me.
What? What's this thrill me stuff?
Thrill me.
Jim, I don't know what you're talking about.
Thrill me, Gene.
I'm sorry, Gene. I got to join him. I don't know what he's talking about, but thrill me, Gene.
Thrill me.
Thrill me.
You guys give me
Thrill
the
me,
creeps.
Jane.
Good
Thrill
night.
Me. Thrill me.
Good night.
Good night. What are you talking about? It's driving me nuts. Thrill me. What are you talking about? Jim, wake up.
Huh?
What? What is this?
Oh, Jared, I can't get this off my mind. It's this thing that this cop says in this movie. It's called Night of the Creeps.
Night of the Creeps?
Yeah, she said it at the beginning.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happens, see, is that there's these alien guys, see,
Yeah?
and I don't know, it sort of looked like Star Wars or something with these little midget guys.
Yeah?
They had this experiment that he shot out of the spacecraft,
Yeah.
and of course it tumbles out through space, and where does it land?
Earth,
But
I'll
on
bet.
Earth. You're right.
Yeah, right.
So of course, somebody picks it up,
Yeah.
and what happens is this thing jumps out of the glass, and it goes into these little slug things, see?
Yeah.
And what they do is they go in your mouth, and then they go up in your brain, and they
Yeah.
start laying eggs, and what they do is they make you run around, and they kill everybody!
Oh, great. Let's put it in.
Okay.
They called it in. We responded. It was a couple. Guy's body was in the woods 20 yards from the car. My partner found him. I found the girl. I found her in the car. And on the road. And in the woods. Your high school sweetheart went on with her life. Mine got hacked up by a nutcase with an axe. But that's not the fun part.
Jim, I don't know. The fun part of this movie was watching it from beginning to end. This is Night of the Creeps, a great, great movie starring Jason Lively and the wonderful Tom Atkins as Lieutenant Cameron. And Jim, this movie starts out in 1959, and it's in black and white when it starts. And of course, at that point, we're watching a woman get axed. We don't really see much of it. It's really tastefully done. She's in a Thunderbird convertible, and she gets axed by an escaped lunatic. It reminds me a lot of the days when we were parked out on Missouri Bottoms Road, and people would talk about the Hook Man and all that. Well, this was kind of like that, except the guy had an axe, and he actually did come and kill her, but that doesn't matter. Anyway, rapidly thereafter, it changed to 1986 on Sorority Row. By that time, and I really can't give you the whole plot because you'll have to watch the movie to see that, but let's just say by that time we've got a convergence of dead bodies, zombies actually, coming back to life, maniacs with axes, obnoxious fraternity guys, and a bunch of little slimy slugs from outer space, and they're all converging on Fraternity Row at one time, and it makes for mayhem and pandemonium and just a fine movie all around.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Jay, although for me it kind of had a bunch of qualities of several movies. Star Wars at the beginning, like I mentioned, with these little, wonderful little kind of midget, naked alien creatures that have this experiment and they shoot it out into space. And then Alien, when the thing lands and he's looking at this vial and the glass breaks open, and instead of this thing attaching itself to his face, it goes down his throat and thus creates the first zombie that they're now studying at this university in a cryogenic lab with Ronnie or whatever his name is in this lab with this slug in his face. But and like Animal House and a bunch of other things. But it was just good. I really liked the way they did it. They, like you said, they made out the fraternity guys to be complete morons. That all they were interested in is looking good and partying and being just being as moronic as possible. And they did a great job at that. But there is a scene coming up here. They got a few things wrong. I'm going to get this out of the way right at the beginning because I don't want to really knock the film. But there's a few things that they just got wrong that I have to set straight. In the 1959 sequence. One of the girls referred to her girlfriend as Muffy. And I don't know, to me, Muffy is a kind of an 80s or 70s or 80s name. They had a Buffy. Buffy was around, but not Muffy. Muffy's new. It's, it's like they just got it wrong. Brad and Buffy and all that stuff, And then they called somebody a Gomer. Now, Gomer Pyle, I don't think, started till 63 or 62, 64, something like that. And as far as we know, that's where it came from. Somebody's a Gomer. He's, yeah. And then there's one more thing, Jay.
Wait, Jim, just say, didn't you like that show? I thought you liked that particular show.
What, Gomer Pyle USMC?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Never mind. Just go on with what you're saying. Huh?
Oh, okay. So there's another part that's coming up that was, it's an old saying, and I learned it in high school, and everybody knows it, and they got it wrong, and I'll just play it for you. It's coming up right here.
Vic? Steve. And I don't think you're very funny. Don't tell me. But as funny as a crutch?
Now, CJ, everybody knows that the line is funny as a rubber crutch. Because a regular crutch isn't funny. I mean, it's just not funny. A rubber crutch would be funny. And that's one thing that I wanted to mention, Jay, that in this movie that was kind of unique, is that one of the lead characters was on crutches through the whole movie. And you don't ever see that hardly. I mean, I've never seen it in a movie where the lead character was a paraplegic.
Well, yeah, Jim, but I don't think it really was played by a person with that.
Well, that
disability.
obviously wasn't.
That joke wasn't a good joke. But anyway,
but they're making fun of themselves, which is good.
That's good.
And but anyway, let's go right on to Lieutenant Cameron. Jay, he was so great. He was so wonderful, and everybody's wondering about that opening, where we got that line from. And it's coming up right here, and this is the first time we see Lieutenant Cameron, and this is where we get it from.
Thrill me.
Detective Cameron?
No, Bozo the Clown.
Jay, that's probably the greatest entrance for a character that I've seen in a long time. And it doesn't stop there. The very next scene, where they've just found this dead body in the lab, and the cryogenic guy is loose, and now the slugs are everywhere. And in walks the lieutenant again, and he has another great line coming up right here.
Detective Cameron?
No, Bullwinkle Moose. Thrill me.
Sorry.
Jim, you're right. This is great. This guy is wonderful. He makes this movie. He's the embodiment of every tough cop that we've ever seen. All the tough cops that we'd like to have seen. Mickey Spillane, Mike Hammer, and all that. The guy on Hill Street Blues who used to chew gum all the time with Dennis Franz played him. I forget his name. I don't know. I'll know it if I remember. I'll remember it later on. But Popeye Doyle, you name it. This guy had everything, plus a little humor thrown in too. He was just a great. He didn't really mean to be humorous. He just was. And I mean, when he was on the screen, this movie sparkled. He made the movie, and why Tom Atkins hasn't gone further in the movies than he did, I'll never know. I know he's had some other parts and other things. You would recognize him. I recognize him from other movies. I just can't tell you which ones he's been in. He's never really gotten past the lead in movies like this and bit parts and other ones, but he's really, really good.
I definitely agree with you, Jay. And actually, the acting in general was pretty good, but he was exceptional. But another movie that this reminded me of, and actually it was a series of movies, and it goes back to the old serials of Buster Crabbe and all those things where they had one big lever that made everything work. And in this one there was a big red button in the cryogenics lab that said disengage, and there was this big red button, and you push it, and everything that they've done since 1959 comes to a screeching halt with one big red button. I just really like that. It just sends me right back to when I was sitting in the gymnasium at Corpus Christi watching Buster Crabbe, go all. But Jay, this story weaves itself real well and brings the 1959 in when they waken this guy from 59. Of course, he goes back to the same sorority house where this new woman is living, and he starts throwing rocks at her window like he used to with his old girlfriend, who was the detective's old girlfriend. And they weave it all in together, but then, of course, his head splits open and all these slugs come out, which, makes it even better. So
really, Jim, it was a fine movie. I just have to get back to Tom Atkins again, though, because we don't have too much time left for this review, and I don't think enough can be said about his fine performance. He's going to go in my book here. He's in with Rory Calhoun in Motel Hell as being the best actor in one of these movies that we've seen in 2 years. And Jim, there's a scene coming up that would have made Jack Webb proud of Tom Atkins. It's coming up right here.
Medical center that Mr. Miner saw you running out of at 40 miles an hour.
Don't forget screaming like banshees.
Sounds like a pledge prank to me. A sick, twisted, psychotic, demented, deranged pledge prank, but still possibly, just possibly in the ballpark.
Well, he certainly covered all the bases.
He certainly did, Jim. And Jim, here's another typical Tom Atkins scene coming up.
I was awakened out of a real pleasant dream to come down here. Are you going to straighten it out, Ramey, or am I going to play Pooh Patrol with your nightstick?
I screwed up. I sent 2 rookies down here on a case like this, and at some point, they both went to the bathroom.
All right, that's fine. Candy-ass, but fine. There's just one minor problem. Corpses that have been dead for 27 years do not get up and go for a walk by themselves.
Tough.
Gosh, Jay.
He is a tough guy.
He's tough. I wouldn't want him on my case, I'm telling you.
I wouldn't. There's a thing.
Or I would want him on my case, I guess. Yeah.
Our listeners can't see this, but the cop that he was chewing out there is a guy that played the cop on Mary Hartman.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, he was in there. This is the first time he's been. First time I've seen him since the old Mary Hartman.
Yeah, he's really come a long way, hasn't he?
Was either Mary Hartman or one of those. Yeah, it had to be Mary Hartman.
Yeah.
It was definitely that one.
Okay.
But you'd recognize him if you see the movie and you ever watched that show. Anyway, we could go on and on about this movie. There's really nothing bad that I can say about it. And I'm really glad you finally, for once, you got a good one. This was really, really good. I'm going to give this a 4 lobotomy. I still don't rate it up there with some of the classics that we've had, but 4 lobotomies is a high rating, and I have no reservations about that at all.
Yeah, Jay, I agree. I'm going to give it 4 lobotomies as well. It's pretty good. I enjoyed it. And one thing, though, I do want to clarify that I said I would earlier, is that the reason all the slugs started coming to the sorority house is that one of the girls in the sorority had stored a box full of brains for biology class. It just happened to have 4 brains in the basement. And, well, that's where the slugs propagate. They go into the brain, and then eventually they have like 8 or 10 that pop out when they split your head open. So they're all congregating in the basement, and of course everybody ends up there. The cop ends up there, and the 2 guys end up there that are the lead roles, and everybody ends up there.
Don't forget the whole busload of fraternity guys that gets killed on the way over there.
Zombies. They're coming
zombies.
there. Everybody's converging on the sorority house, and we'll leave you with a last line that Cameron gets. It was actually the commercial for the movie on the box. This is the greatest line I've ever heard in my life, and we'll leave you with this.
I got good news and bad news, girls. The good news is your dates are here.
What's the bad news?
They're dead.